Should Christians debate? Should Christians debate? Should Adventist pastors seek out debating? Let's talk a little bit about debating. Let's look at some biblical passages and consider some lessons. Some basic lessons first. Proverbs 15:1, a soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. Ephesians 4:15, but speaking the truth in love may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ. So we're to speak the truth in love and to avoid harsh words that stir up anger. The way we speak is very important. We see in Luke 6:31, and just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. So as much as possible, this would apply in all things, but we're talking specifically about talking. So how you want someone to talk to you, you talk to them likewise. And so speaking the truth in love, trying to avoid harsh words, trying to avoid needlessly stirring up anger, these principles, I think, have to be kept in mind. Dealing specifically here with the issue of whether a Christian should seek out debate. Should we be quarrelsome? Should we do that? I'm dealing specifically with the issue here of defending Adventism. There's a lot of anti-Adventism out there in YouTube, and so this is my personal Michael Ministry channel. This is my personal ministry channel, and I am an Adventist, and I am interested in defending Adventism. But there's a lot of debating going on and this type of thing going on. And do we always glorify God? How should we handle this? Let's look at another passage, Luke 6:45. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. So sometimes, and I've seen it, I've seen attitudes among so-called Christians where they might refer to insult, or they might start to insult their opponent or get personal. We're not supposed to do that. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So how do we handle this? Or how are we to think about this as Christians? In 1 Timothy, let's see over here. 1 Peter 3:15, it says, but sanctify the Lord God in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to everyone who asks you a reason for the hope that is in you, but you do it with weakness and fear. So we are to make a defense for our faith. The Bible is telling us that we are to make a defense. Let's look at another passage. Here in the book of Acts chapter 19, 8 and 9, we read, and he, that is Paul, went into the synagogue and he spoke boldly for 3 months, reasoning and persuading concerning the things of the kingdom of God. Now, obviously, in that synagogue, not everybody was going to be favorable. And so it uses the word reasoning and persuading. And according to the Bible Hub on Acts chapter 19:8, the word for reasoning is designated Strong's 1256 and dialegomai in the Greek, dialegomai, and it says here, this is in the lexicon here in Bible Hub, it says to discuss, to reason, but it also says to argue, to speak. According to Strong's exhaustive concordance, it says to dispute, okay, to preach unto, to reason with. And then it says also further to dispute, to preach. And so it could mean to argue. And when you look at the context of verse number 8, you do see there persuading concerning the things of the kingdom of God. But then it goes in verse 9 and says, but when some who were hardened and did not believe. Obviously, he had opponents there. So it seems that he was disputing. He may have been arguing to a certain degree. He might have been reasoning. That translation might have worked. But he obviously had opponents there, and they became hardened. In verse 9 it says, "But when some were hardened and did not believe, but spoke evil of the way before the multitude, he departed from them and withdrew the disciples, reasoning daily in the school of Tyrannus." So some became hardened. He ended up departing there, but he was reasoning. He might have been disputed with them. It may be that when he saw that they were getting hardened, then he said, "I'm going to leave." And so there may have been disputing or arguing in that circumstance. The question is, should Christians dispute Adventists? We are now in the midst of, and we can expect more of these controversies, more of these attacks on Adventism. How should we deal with it? That's kind of what I'm talking about in this presentation. What should we do? 2 Timothy 2:23, "But avoid foolish and ignorant disputes, knowing that they generate strife." So avoiding. So we shouldn't seek them out, shouldn't seek out disputes as much as possible. As much as possible, we want to avoid them. When we look at 1 Timothy 3 and consider the qualifications of overseers, or elders or bishops, we can see over in verse number 3, "Not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous." Okay, not covetous. Not quarrelsome is there. According to the Bible Hub, that word there that was translated in the New King James, which is all the passages I'm looking at here, is let's see, amachon, peaceable. And according to this, amachos, it could be translated not quarrelsome. Okay, it could be translated that way. Not a brawler could also be translated. So I think it's good to say, it is a good quality to not be quarrelsome. Okay, as much as possible to not be quarrelsome. There is a lot of that going on, especially in the realm of the critiquing of Adventism, the criticizing of Adventism, debates and so forth. I think of platforms like Answering Adventism. Now, we shouldn't go seeking out debates and quarrels. And I'm considering that myself and thinking about the fact that as far as defending Adventism, which I've been doing more lately on this platform of mine, again, this is my personal ministry channel, and I do other things, mostly ministry related, but not all of my ministry and not all that I present here is in the context of defending Adventism, but I have been doing more of that lately, and I find that I could do that quite effectively. As far as YouTube is concerned, any Adventist could set up a YouTube channel and quite effectively defend Adventism by the grace of God. It's all about dependency on God. And so you don't have to debate in order to do that. And I think you can effectively present your case with a YouTube video, critiquing other videos, critiquing and responding to criticisms. You could do that quite effectively without getting into a debate. And a debate, when you're having a debate or a discussion with someone, there you can present your point of view, but you could also do that just by way of making videos. Okay? So anyway, let's look at let's look at a quote here from Ellen White on this. This is from Testimonies for the Church, Volume 3, page 220. And Ellen White writes here, I was shown that some of our young ministers are getting a passion for debating, and that unless they see their danger, this will prove a snare to them. I was shown that Brother L is in great danger. He is training his mind in the wrong direction. He is in danger of getting above the simplicity of the work. When he gets on Saul's armor, if, like David, he has wisdom to lay it off because he has not proved it, he may recover himself before he goes too far. These young preachers should study the practical teachings of Christ as well as the theoretical and learn of Jesus, that they may have his grace, his meekness, his humility, and lowliness of mind. If they, like David, are brought into a position where God's cause really calls for them to meet a defier of Israel. So sometimes you have to meet a defier of Israel, and if they go forth in the strength of God, relying wholly upon him, very important principle, he will carry them through and cause his truth to triumph gloriously. So there may be a time where you have to meet a defier of Israel, but you don't want to go out and be quarrelsome and look for debates and look for arguments. Here we see in this topic, discussions to be avoided from Testimony to the Church, Volume 3, page 424. We see you have love to debate the truth and love discussions, but these contests have been unfavorable to your forming a harmonious Christian character. For in this is a favorable opportunity for the exhibition of the very traits of character that you must overcome if you ever enter heaven. Discussions cannot always be avoided. In some cases, the circumstances are such that of the two evils, the choice must be made of the least, which is discussion or debate. But whenever they can be avoided, they should be, for the result is seldom honoring to God. So you can see this very wise counsel that a lot of times the debate and discussion can yield forth character traits and really build on pride and build on character traits that are not healthy. For in this is a favorable opportunity for the exhibition of the very traits of character that you must overcome if you ever enter heaven. So that's the danger. And so this is wise counsel, because that's what can happen in debates and discussions. A person can end up relying on self rather than God. And because of our sinful nature, we will have that tendency. We will be easily drawn into that tendency of relying on self and puffing ourselves up and puffing up our knowledge and presenting ourselves and not relying wholly on God. And so there is that. But sometimes, as we see, discussions cannot always be avoided. Sometimes a person must meet a defier of Israel. But we're not to be quarrelsome and go out looking for those things. Okay? So this is some of the counsel that I'm seeing here, and there's much more than that. Here we see in Testimony to the Church, Volume 1, page 624. Okay, here we see on paragraph 2, I was shown that the advocates of truth should not seek discussions or debates, and whenever it is necessary for the advancement of the cause of truth and the glory of God, that an opponent be met. So sometimes it may be necessary. How carefully and with what humility should they go into conflict? We have to represent Christ. And like I said, I've seen some of these interactions. I would say I've seen interactions more so on the side of those who are against Adventism, where they display traits of character that are really not glorifying Christ. Sometimes even resorting to insult, personal insult, and we don't want that to happen. And so these character traits that can come out in the debate, we want to avoid that. So with that in mind, this is where I am right now. And I've been pondering and praying on this. I recently got very frustrated watching Answering Adventism and a discussion and debate that Miles was having with a man named Wayne. But in that debate, I got very frustrated watching that. I thought Wayne was very patient. And I'm not saying I agree with everything that Wayne was saying, because I think Wayne may have been an anti-Trinitarian. So I'm not sure. But as far as his points, I think he wasn't debating the Trinity there. And the points he was making, I think he did a very good job. But people look at that, and by nature, oftentimes we're drawn to the red meat. And so they looked at that, and really, oftentimes, Miles was really cutting Wayne off a lot and interrupting him a lot. And Wayne was being patient with that. And Wayne was being very patient. And at one point, Miles said, "I'm going to mute your mic," and that type of thing. Obviously, it does happen. And sometimes in debate, within reason, you may end up interrupting. And sometimes if the opponent is interrupting you, and that's kind of the grounds that you're on, where there's almost an implicit expectation, or the opponent is pretty much saying, "This is how I want to discuss, I want to interrupt," then you may end up interrupting as well. That may be the case. So I'm not saying that there's never grounds to interrupt, to do so within reason. But in that case, in the case between Miles and Wayne, Miles was doing it a lot more. And people look at that and they say, you see, look at him, he's killing him in the discussion and that type of thing. And so it was kind of frustrating for me to watch that. And then at the point where he said, "I'm going to mute your mic," and that kind of nonsense. So I think we have to be careful. It's easy to get drawn into that type of thing. So this is kind of where I am right now. Where I am right now is this. I'm not looking for debate and discussion. In other words, to debate people. I'm not looking to search out debates with others, because after that, watching that interaction with Miles there, and I was thinking, I'm going to email him and I'm going to have a debate with him on his channel. But then as I was pondering and thinking about it, my point really is to defend Adventism. And as far as content goes, and as far as addressing the actual arguments of opponents, I could do that just fine by doing a lot of what I have been doing already, just taking a video from an opponent and critiquing it and putting out the content pretty effectively in just making videos. I don't have to debate anyone, and sometimes it's easier to present the content without a debate, just looking at what an opponent is saying, researching, and providing answers that way. Because in the end, ultimately, a seeker of truth will want the information. But it is very easy for people to be drawn to watching debates and being drawn to what comes out in the debates. And oftentimes it is very easy to exhibit traits of character that are not pleasing to God. And sometimes people like that. They like seeing one guy smash his opponent. And it's also not impossible, and I've seen it myself, where you could see somebody who is wrong. I mean, any Christian would obviously say an atheist is wrong, but an atheist can be more skilled in debate, philosophy, and using tactics of rhetoric, maybe poking some fun at the opponent, maybe more entertaining to watch. And the atheist can, quote unquote, win the debate without actually, as from a Christian perspective, we would say they were wrong, but they won the debate, you see? And so that kind of thing could happen. So where I am right now is I'm not seeking out debates. I'm not seeking out any debates. I'm not seeking out to debate people. I'm not seeking out. Now, I don't, and speaking by the grace of God, the Lord knows all things, and putting all things in the hands of God prayerfully, I've been pondering this. And so I'm not planning to run from debates either. So I'm not looking for debates. I don't want to debate, but I'm not planning to run from them either. So if somebody says, I want to debate you, there has to be the understanding, based on what I just said, that you're asking me to really do something I don't really feel the need to do and I don't really want to do. Like I said, I could just put out videos quite easily, put the content out, respond to videos on my channel without having debate. And as far as the information goes, the information could be put out that way. So I'm not necessarily looking for debate. So if you're asking me to do something I don't want to do, if you ask somebody to do something that they don't want to do really, and that they're not really looking to do, you have to be prepared to make some concessions. And so this is where I am right now. If you want to debate me, if you want to do that, if you want to have a discussion with me, I'm not looking for it. And at this point, I'm not really interested in it. I'm just interested in defending the truth and defending Adventism, which I could do right on this channel. But if you want to do that, and you're asking me to do something I don't want to do, this is pretty much where I am right now. I would say, yeah, I'll do it, but it's going to be on my channel, okay? We could talk in the comment section and arrange things between ourselves, but it would be on my channel. Or I might be willing, if Pastor James DeValin from Advent Media Connect were willing to host the debate, we could go on his channel. Or, of course, the Advent Defense League. They could host the debate and moderate it. So I'd be willing to go on their channel as well and do that. But that's pretty much where I am right now. The bottom line is I'm really not looking for debates. And just because someone comments, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be willing to have a debate or discussion with them. I'm not saying that everybody who comments or who says, I want to debate you, that I'm going to go ahead and do it. I would probably have to consider, is it worthwhile having this discussion, having this debate? So I'm not looking to have a debate, but I'm also not planning to run away from a debate either. And so that's pretty much where I am. Not looking to have it, not seeking it out. Like I said, I feel I could do pretty much what I want to do just by doing what I've been doing. Now, I did in the past go on someone else's channel. I went on Sola Scriptura's channel that one time, and he was a gentleman, and so I give him credit for that. But pretty much my policy right now is I'm really not looking to debate, but if somebody really wants to debate me and wants to have that discussion, I'm going to say it's going to be on my channel, because I'm not planning to mute the microphone. I'm not planning to do that, and I'm not planning to really use my privileges as host to turn the tables in my favor. I would plan to just have the discussion, have it out, but definitely there shouldn't be any personal insults and attacks and sarcasm and exhibiting those traits of character. I don't plan to do that. By the grace of God, I don't plan to do that. I plan to prayerfully rely on God. If the opponent does that, then they're really showing themselves for what they are, and I think they're doing harm to their own cause. And so bottom line is I'm not looking for the debate. I know I'm saying this over and over again, but I want to make it clear, and I may end up making a video like this in the future, and may end up referring back to this video, because I don't know how far this message is going to get. But just want to make it very clear that I'm not going out of my way, and I'm not looking to pursue debates. But if somebody is asking me to do something that I really don't want to do, don't have that much interest in doing, those are my terms. It would be on my channel, or I'd be willing to go on the Advent Defense League or an Advent Media Connect. I didn't speak with Edwin Cotto or Pastor James DeValin about this. I'm just saying this now. And if they were willing, I'd be willing to do it there. But that doesn't mean that everybody who says, I want to debate you, that I'm going to, I'd have to measure out what they're saying. If it's, maybe something I'd consider is, did I go over this already? Maybe I'd consider that. Or maybe I'd consider if what the person is presenting is even reasonable. I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing that anybody who would ask for a debate or discussion, I would agree to. Anyway, just wanted to lay that out, trying to take into consideration this counsel from the Bible and from Ellen White. God bless.